Most people think mulching means buying bags of shredded bark every single year. That cycle is exhausting. It drains your wallet, steals your weekends, and weeds still push through anyway. But there's a quieter, smarter approach many gardeners discover far too late, and today I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Welcome to Timeless Harvest. After years of testing ground covers, cover crops, and living mulches on our land, we've narrowed down 7 incredible plants that can turn your garden into a self-mulching system. These living carpets shade out weeds, lock in moisture, feed your soil naturally, and return stronger season after season. No endless hauling or constant reapplying, just practical plants that mulch for you while you focus on growing the food and flowers you love. Let's start with the absolute superstar of the bunch. Number 1. Dutch White Clover, the nitrogen engine. Dutch White Clover is the foundation of any serious living mulch system. It grows low, staying under 8 inches tall, and spreads sideways into a thick mat that weeds struggle to penetrate. But what makes it truly special happens below the surface. Clover is a legume, meaning it pulls nitrogen straight from the air and feeds it into your soil through special bacteria living on its roots. Every day this little plant fertilizes your garden while protecting the ground like a living blanket. Michigan State University highlights clover as an ideal living mulch because of this twin action. To get started, sprinkle the seeds directly onto prepared soil in early spring or early autumn. They need sunlight to germinate, so don't bury them deep. Just press them lightly into the surface and keep things moist for about 10 days. Once established, clover spreads by creeping stems that root wherever they touch the ground, filling gaps naturally with very little effort from you. The best placement for Dutch White Clover is between rows of vegetables, under fruit trees, and along garden paths. It handles light foot traffic well and bounces back quickly after being stepped on. One thing to avoid is letting it dry out during the first month. Seedlings are delicate, and if they crisp up before roots go deep, you'll get patchy coverage where weeds can sneak through. Another thing to know is that clover flowers attract bees and pollinators from all directions. That's wonderful for your fruiting plants, but if you're nervous about bees underfoot, simply mow or trim the clover before peak bloom. It'll come right back, just shorter. Clover is perennial in most climates, so one planting keeps paying off for years. Number 2. Nasturtium, the edible protector. If clover is the quiet worker, Nasturtium is the show-off that earns its keep in 100 different ways. This fast-spreading annual produces broad, round leaves that shade the soil surface, cooling roots and holding moisture even during brutal summer afternoons. And here's the part that makes people smile. Those leaves and bright flowers are completely edible, with a spicy, peppery kick chefs genuinely seek out. Nasturtium thrives in poor soil, which makes it perfect for areas where other ground covers struggle. Rich soil actually reduces flowering and creates more leaves than blooms. So if you've got a neglected corner that needs protection but can't support fussy plants, scatter Nasturtium seeds and watch them take over. The foliage helps crowd out weeds while also deterring certain pest insects from finding your main crops. The key to getting Nasturtium established is patience with the seeds. They're large and have a tough outer coat. Soak them in warm water overnight before planting, then push them about half an inch into the soil. They'll emerge within a week in warm conditions and start spreading almost immediately. One plant can cover several square feet, so don't overseed. Use Nasturtium around the edges of raised beds, beneath fruit trees, or cascading over retaining walls. At the end of the season, the plant dies back and decomposes right where it grew, leaving behind organic matter that feeds your soil through winter. Collect the seeds before frost if you want to replant next year. They're surprisingly easy to save and share with neighbors. Number 3. Crimson Clover, the overwintering blanket. Crimson clover fills a crucial role that summer plants can't handle. It protects your garden during the coldest months, when bare soil is most vulnerable to erosion and nutrient loss. Planted in late summer or early autumn, crimson clover germinates quickly and forms a lush green cover that holds soil in place through winter rains and winds. What makes crimson clover exceptionally valuable is the amount of nitrogen it fixes before it dies. Research from multiple agricultural extensions shows that crimson clover can provide enough nitrogen to reduce or even eliminate the need for synthetic fertilizers in the following spring crop. This is measurable soil science farmers have relied on for generations. The roots also penetrate compacted areas and loosen things naturally, which means less digging and tilling on your part. When spring arrives, crimson clover sends up stunning red flower spikes that pollinators flock to. After flowering, the plant naturally dies back and falls over, creating a mulch layer exactly where your spring vegetables will grow. About 3 weeks before you want to plant your spring crops, cut the crimson clover at ground level with shears or a string trimmer. Let the cut plants lie where they fall for a few days to dry out slightly. Then transplant your tomatoes or peppers directly through the residue. The decomposing clover feeds your crops while helping suppress weeds. One caution is not letting crimson clover go to seed too aggressively in small gardens. Cut it as flowers fade if you don't want volunteers everywhere. Number 4. Creeping thyme, the permanent carpet. Creeping thyme is the long-term investment that keeps paying off. Unlike annuals that need replanting, creeping thyme is a woody perennial that forms a permanent cover of tiny aromatic leaves. It hugs the ground at barely 2 inches tall, tolerates poor sandy soils that would starve other plants, and handles drought once established. The reason creeping thyme works so beautifully in perennial areas is that it doesn't need replacing or reseeding. Year after year, the same plants spread wider until bare soil practically disappears. Weeds struggle to compete with the dense root network, and the tiny leaves shed lightly each season, adding organic matter slowly over time. Establishing creeping thyme from seed requires a bit more attention up front. The seeds are almost dust-like, so mix them with dry sand before broadcasting to spread them evenly. Press them firmly into the surface and keep the area consistently moist for 2 to 3 weeks. Growth looks slow at first, because most of the early energy goes into root development. The payoff comes in year 2 and 3, when those roots fuel a spreading burst across the soil surface. Thyme releases a pleasant fragrance when stepped on, making it ideal for path edges, between stepping stones, and around rose bushes. Avoid planting it in heavy wet clay where roots rot. Number 5. Comfrey, the chop and drop mine. Comfrey does something no other plant on this list can do. Its roots plunge deep into the subsoil, mining potassium, phosphorus, and trace minerals that shallow-rooted vegetables can never reach. Those minerals get concentrated in the large, fuzzy leaves, which grow rapidly and can be cut back several times each season. This is where the chop and drop technique becomes your best friend. Instead of buying fertilizer or mulch, you simply cut comfrey leaves at the base and lay them directly on the soil around your fruit trees or heavy-feeding vegetables. The leaves break down quickly into a dark, nutrient-rich layer that feeds plants, suppresses weeds, and improves soil structure. Within weeks, the comfrey regrows, and you can do it again. Blocking 14 is the variety to look for. It's sterile, meaning it won't spread by seed and take over your garden. You propagate it from root cuttings, not seed. Once planted in a permanent location, comfrey produces for decades with very little care. The mistake many gardeners make is planting comfrey inside annual vegetable beds and then struggling to work around it. Place it in permanent areas like orchard rows, perennial beds, or a dedicated chop and drop zone. Harvest the leaves when they're about 2 feet tall, but before flowers open. That's when nutrient concentration peaks. Number 6. Buckwheat, the rapid smother crop. Buckwheat is your emergency button for bare soil. If you've just harvested a crop, cleared a weedy patch, or opened new ground, buckwheat can cover exposed earth faster than any other plant on this list. Under warm conditions, seeds germinate within days, and full coverage happens in just 3 to 4 weeks. The speed is strategic. Buckwheat's broad, triangular leaves create shade so quickly that many weed seeds never get the light they need to establish. Additionally, buckwheat roots release mild acids that help free phosphorus from tight soil particles, making that nutrient available to your next crop. To use buckwheat effectively, broadcast seed thickly onto raked soil during warm weather and water once. Let the plants grow until flowers appear, then cut them at soil level with a sickle or mower. Leave the roots in place to hold soil structure and feed microbes as they decompose. The tops can remain as green mulch or be turned under lightly if you're replanting immediately. One crucial timing note is that buckwheat dies completely with the first frost. In warm seasons, you can cycle it multiple times between crops. Just don't let it fully go to seed unless you want volunteers everywhere. Number 7. Sweet Alyssum, the beneficial insect magnet. Sweet Alyssum is the living mulch that actively calls in reinforcements. This low-growing annual produces clouds of tiny white or purple flowers that beneficial insects absolutely adore. Hoverflies, whose larvae eat aphids, are drawn to Alyssum from surprising distances. Parasitic wasps that attack caterpillars also visit the flowers for nectar before hunting pests in your garden. The plant itself forms a low-flowering cover, perfect for tucking beneath taller vegetables, along bed edges, and in sunny spaces where you want beauty plus function. The roots are shallow, so there's minimal competition with crop plants. Alyssum also self-seeds reliably in many climates, meaning it often returns each spring with little effort. Alyssum seeds directly on the soil surface. Press them in gently and keep them moist until germination. Thin seedlings to about 6 inches apart, then let them fill in naturally. If plants get leggy in midsummer, shear them back by half and they'll bloom again within weeks. The ecological benefit of Alyssum goes beyond pest control. The constant flowers support pollinators, provide habitat for ground beetles that eat slugs, and create a cooler microclimate at soil level that earthworms thrive in. Here's where the vision becomes reality. None of these plants works best alone. They're designed to fit together like puzzle pieces, each one covering a different role, season, and garden zone. When layered together, they create a self-mulching system that becomes easier to maintain every year. Picture this. Under your fruit trees, Dutch white clover forms the permanent living floor, while Comfrey provides regular chop and drop mulch. Along paths, creeping thyme handles foot traffic and releases fragrance every time you brush past. In vegetable beds between seasons, crimson clover protects winter soil and buckwheat fills summer gaps. Nasturtium spills over bed edges while sweet alyssum brings in hoverflies and parasitic wasps that help keep pests balanced naturally. This is not theory. It's a designed plant community, functioning like a natural ecosystem, because that's exactly what you're building. The soil stays protected, fertility improves gradually, and weed pressure drops dramatically over time. The transition takes 1 or 2 growing seasons, not one weekend. Start with one area, maybe your perennial bed or orchard floor, and get the living mulch established there before expanding. Watch how the plants interact, adjust spacing, and learn what thrives in your specific microclimate. Now I'd genuinely love to hear how you'd use these ideas in your own garden. Which of these 7 living mulches are you most excited to try first, and what problem are you hoping it solves? Maybe you want fewer weeds, healthier soil, more pollinators, or just less time hauling bags of mulch every season. Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments, because this community grows stronger when gardeners share what's actually working. If this episode gave you a fresh way to think about mulching and ground cover, please give Timeless Harvest a thumbs up and subscribe for more practical gardening ideas that work with nature instead of against it. See you in the next one.